There are very few characters in literature more famous than Achilles, the greatest warrior of Greece, the man whose name has survived for nearly 3,000 years. Yet, despite being one of the most important characters in literature, Achilles can be surprisingly difficult to connect with. He's an arrogant, selfish, petty man who's willing to allow hundreds of his own allies to die simply because his feelings were hurt. He's fascinating, complicated, but yet not likable, which is why I think Troy made one of the smartest adaptation decisions imaginable. It didn't make Achilles weak or make him less dangerous. He's still as much of a legend. They just made him more human. Now, before the comments explode, I'm not saying Homer wrote Achilles badly. My second favorite book is the Iliad. I love that book to death. But I remember reading it for the first time as a 12-year-old and I loved the characters outside of Achilles. I could not get into it. I do like Achilles now, but that's because of movies like Troy that helped change my opinion on him. So let's talk quickly about Achilles from the Iliad. Homer was writing a Bronze Age hero in that same culture. His audience valued things different than we would nowadays. Honor mattered more than life. Reputation mattered more than comfort, and glory matters more than happiness. And Achilles is supposed to embrace all of that. When Agamemnon takes Briseis away, Achilles doesn't leave because his heart is broken because his woman has been taken. He leaves because his status as the greatest warrior is called into question. To the Greek audience who would have been listening to this when Homer was telling these stories, it made sense. To us here in the 21st century, it came off a little more ridiculous. Thousands of men died because of this. Again, I remember as a 12-year-old, I was reading the book in my history class, and I was just the whole time like, I love Hector, but I don't like Achilles. The whole time I would just say stuff like, dude, man, grow up. Like, as a 12-year-old, I even knew, like, okay, the way you are acting is stupid. So the first time I read the book, I hated Achilles. And it took me to the second time to be like, okay, I'm picking up on a little bit more why I could enjoy Achilles as a character. But the truth is, that's the whole point of Achilles, is he's supposed to be somewhat unlikable in the way that he's just that ideal. He's willing to let people die just for his own pride, which again can create a challenge for adaptations. How do you make Achilles relatable without losing what makes Achilles Achilles? Which is where Troy comes in. Troy solves the problem by changing his primary motivation. In the Iliad, he's drove by honor, by his need to appear still as the greatest warrior. Troy, he's drove by his mortality. He's drove by his need for legacy. So when Agamemnon takes Briseis, it's less about Briseis, even that she plays a part in it. It's more to do with Agamemnon saying that he will have the glory. Agamemnon will be the one with the legacy after this war, and not Achilles. And Achilles' pride is hurt by that. His need for validation, his need for this legacy that comes out of this war is tarnished. And so until Agamemnon's willing to allow him to have that glory back, have the legacy, he doesn't want to fight. He's drove by the need to be remembered. Throughout the whole story, he knows he's gonna die. By doing this, they make Achilles more relatable, because we all know we're gonna die. We all know that one day, everyone around us is gonna die. But the question becomes, what do we leave behind when we die? This is what Achilles is struggling with. What is his legacy? Will his life actually bring anything of matter to it? Is he just a killing machine? That's what he feels like throughout the movie. Agamemnon can call on him to just go out and be his war dog, just going and killing for him. And he's like, where's the value in that? What truly motivates him to do it? His biggest desire is how can he become immortal through his memory? This is definitely something that was talked about in the Iliad, but it's more focused on in Troy, which brings us to a line that really sums up the whole movie. When Achilles is talking to Briseis about the gods, and he says,
I'll tell you a secret. Something they don't teach you in your temple. The gods envy us. Envious because we're mortal. Because any moment might be our last. Everything's more beautiful because we're doomed. You will never be lovelier than you are now. We will never be here again.
This is one of the most famous lines in the movie for good reason. It's really the sum up of his whole mindset and why he's able to change so much throughout the story. And truly the key to understanding this version of Achilles. It's a lot more of a relatable idea than just the wound of pride. Achilles becomes someone who wrestles with some questions we all wrestle with. How do we make our lives matter? How do we leave something behind? How do we face our deaths? Suddenly Achilles doesn't feel just like a mythical hero. He becomes more like a normal human, which leads us on to the whole relationship of Briseis and Achilles. One of the biggest changes that Troy makes is this relationship. In Homer, Briseis is significant because losing her insults Achilles' honor. In the movie, she's actually treated like she's a human with an unique story. Briseis becomes something more powerful. She becomes Achilles tied to humanity. He feels at the beginning of this war, he's literally just the war dog for the Greeks. That's all he is. And then he meets this woman who he very quickly realizes he has respect for her. He's willing to hear what she has to say. She is willing to flat out say to him what he needs someone to tell him.
Killing's your only talent, that's your curse.
Perhaps the first time in his life, Achilles encounters someone who sees beyond the legend. She doesn't care about his victories or his reputation. She doesn't care about the songs they're going to write about him. She sees the human and not the myth, which is what Achilles really needs to hear in that moment. Because throughout the movie, he's trapped in his own legend. Everyone sees him as a hero. No one sees the person underneath. But Briseis changes that. The next thing is that of the death of Patroclus. The death of Patroclus in the movie hits in a different way. In the Iliad, Patroclus's death unleashes Achilles' wrath. In Troy, it does a little bit more than that. It forces Achilles to confront the consequences of his choices. He chose to leave this war until he could get his glory, but he wasn't thinking about how that would affect the people around him. He saw the war as just a game, and he treated it as such. And in his mind, he is untouchable. Not even the gods can touch him. And beyond consequences because of that. He doesn't care who dies. But Patroclus is the one person he cares about now. And so when Patroclus goes out there and gets killed, it causes him to now face what he keeps talking about, the idea of these people's deaths. But when he talks about these other warriors dying, it's more of just, oh, we all die, it's all good. But when Patroclus dies, he has to face that someone he loves has died. Suddenly, death is not a insignificant thing. Death is personal. Cost of glory finally becomes real. It's really the moment that Achilles finally has to change. Which brings us into his fight with Hector. To understand that, you have to actually understand Hector first. Hector has everything of a legacy that Achilles doesn't. While Achilles seeks a legacy in war, Hector doesn't care about that. Hector has his legacy comes from his family, his responsibilities. His purpose is to protect his country and his family. Achilles doesn't have a family. He doesn't have that chance to do that. Hector knows what he's fighting for, while Achilles is still trying to figure it out. That's why the duel works so well. It's not just two warriors fighting against each other. It's two different philosophies clashing with each other. One wants eternal glory and one wants to just protect his people. After Hector dies, he also has to face the fact that now he has killed any chance of him having the same form of legacy that Hector has. Because while right before he went off to fight Hector, he had the ability to go back and do as his mother offered that he could. Instead of having his glory in battle, he could have had a family. He could have had kids and grandkids, and they would remember him, like with Hector. But the moment he goes and he chooses to kill Hector, he's no longer allowed to have that legacy anymore. He has given that up. He did not run off on his boat with Briseis. Instead, he goes and kills her cousin. At that moment, he's lost any chance he has of having a more normal life. He has given that up. He has chosen his path. He has signed his death wish by doing that, because now Paris will do everything in his power to kill him. That is now his legacy, and it has to be that now. And it gives more depth to his death in the end, because now it becomes he dies protecting Briseis. He dies trying to get a life like Hector's, trying to get to a legacy like that. The character arc is, it takes this man who begins just all he cares about is how people will look at him, how much glory he can get out of battle. He's convinced to go kill that warrior in the opening scene because Nestor tells him that people will write songs about him. But then in the end, he doesn't care who writes songs about him. All he cares about is protecting Briseis. In the end, the man who was obsessed with his own legacy dies for someone else's future. The man who wanted immortality discovers something more important than being remembered. Love and connection. The humanity of it all. His arc finally comes to a full circle. He's still Achilles. He's still the legend. He's no longer just a warrior. He's a person now, because Briseis helped him see that. And so why Brad Pitt's version of Achilles remains one of the greatest adaptations of a hero, because it doesn't take away from him. It doesn't make him more emotional. In fact, it actually kind of makes him less emotional in this movie. But the truth is the movie takes a character built around an ancient idea of honor and transfer his story into a modern question of immortality, purpose, and meaning. It keeps the greatness. It keeps his legendary status. It just gives the audience a way to understand him emotionally from somewhere we understand. That's what great adaptations do. They don't just copy, they transform. Now, is this saying that Homer's version of Achilles needed changing? Absolutely not. Homer's Achilles is one of the greatest characters ever written and doesn't need changing. But Troy did solve a problem. Taking a character that was built for an audience 3,000 years ago and making him relate more to the audience of today. It transformed Achilles from a man who was consumed by honor into a man who was seeking for his purpose. From a hero drove by pride into a hero haunted by immortality. And in doing so, they created a version of Achilles that millions of people can connect to today. Because behind the armor, the legacy, beyond the myth, he was just afraid to be forgotten, just like you and I.
Beyond that beach, immortality, take it, it's yours!
Anyways, guys, with that being said, tell me your thoughts about this. If you haven't noticed yet, this is the first time you've seen my face on camera. I wanted to try something out a little different. For the last 4 years of this channel, I've noticed that a lot of people in my same niche tend to not show their face when they're breaking down movies, and so I wanted to try out to see if I get more views by doing that. I both hope that this does work and also that it doesn't work, because I do like showing my face. I feel like it's more engaging, but the trend shows that people tend to like it more when you don't show your face. And so I'm gonna have to try this out, even how much I'm not the biggest fan of it. Like I said, this is how it works, and that's how it works, because I do want to get this video out to more people. So yeah, tell me your thoughts below if you want to see my face more on camera, if you preferred actually having this not seeing my face. I was very happy to make this video because this was a topic that I really wanted to talk about, because ever since I first watched Troy when I was like 16 or something, I just immediately changed my opinion on Achilles. Like before that, I had grown in the last couple of years to have an appreciation for Achilles, but really that was like the moment like, okay, Achilles can be a fun character. And then after that, every single time I read the Iliad again, it's more like, okay, I do like Achilles more and more. But yeah, Achilles tends to be one of those characters who's like, can you just grow up, man? I really like how Troy improved on his character in those ways. So guys, yeah, tell me your thoughts below. This has been the Movie Night Review. Till next time, Peter Wary, signing off.